today's part with the following interruption for a public service announcement.
Welcome to the Investing in Intelligence show, where we talk about artificial intelligence companies, stocks, and trading. I'm James here with my co-host Kai, and today we'll be talking about 2024-2025 transition. So just as a little reminder, nothing that we say is investment advice. It is only our opinions. So what we're jumping off with here, Kai, is our 2024 PNLs. So we've talked about how we're keeping track of our reputation. So if we're bearish or bullish on something, did it do well or did it do poorly after we said we were bearish or bullish? So I'm just going to go ahead and look at our 5 worst and 5 best from 2024. I'm going to jump right into you first, since you're the first on the spreadsheet here. Your 5 best performers are ANET, SMCI, TSM, Tesla, and Palantir. So your top 2 would be Palantir with a 224% return. And looks like SMCI is going to be your second best. No, sorry. Tesla is your second best performer with 111% return. Now, of course, SMCI is one that you were bearish on, and it went down. So you were right on that. We give you points as long as it goes in the direction you predict. And I'll give your negative ones, and then we'll get your reaction on that before we go to mine. So your biggest losers are SoundHound. You were not bullish on SoundHound. You were kind of like, well, let's just keep it on the list, take a look at it. We'll keep watching it. So you missed out on 241% gains from SoundHound. And then ALAB. Next one is Micron. And then we've got Marvell and Axon. So Marvell, I think that was another one you were like, let's just keep an eye on it. So so you had several stocks that you were either bearish on or just wanted to keep an eye on. You weren't willing to purchase those stocks at that time. So you missed out on those returns. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, so let me give you an example, Marvell or AVGO. So I didn't necessarily miss out on the returns. I just chose to take a larger position in something that does something similar. So would you agree Marvell, AVGO are kind of synonymous? And so I took a very large position in AVGO. You can't deploy your money everywhere. You and I take a little bit different strategies. You go more equal weight, and I go more heavily weighted towards one particular company. And so I'm watching you, James. See, I have my little Tesla robot here with its hammer. And so I was bullish on Tesla in the 170s, and so took a very large position on Tesla. And I have exited that position. I actually exited that position prior to the 400 level. But I would just say, for example, the same thing, Marvell, AVGO. I would say Palantir and SoundHound are 2 application software, two end applications of AI. I chose Palantir of those 2. So, you can diversify a little bit more, but I chose to take a larger position in something that I felt compelled to do and or had a plan. So Broadcom, it was one of my biggest winners for the year, as well as Tesla this year in Palantir.
Actually, it wasn't. I mean, so we have data points here. We have data for every single stock that we've covered and whether or not you were bearish or bullish on it at that time. Sometimes, in some cases, I have to use AI and say, hey, look at the entire transcript, because maybe you didn't make a call. But then at a certain point in the year, we started requiring ourselves to say bullish, bearish, or buy or sell, for each stock. So it was easier at that point. But no, I mean, AVGO, so I have 618 was when we covered Broadcom. It was at 180 at that point. You were bullish on it. It finished the year at 231, so you made 28% on that. That was not your biggest winner. Your biggest winner was ANET. Really good call. Oh, sorry. Your biggest winner was SMCI short, because you were bearish on SMCI. I keep getting it wrong. Palantir, your biggest winner. Tesla, your second biggest winner. SMCI short, your third biggest winner, and then ANET, your fourth biggest winner. So AVGO wasn't even top 5 of your biggest winners. But no, I mean, the numbers don't lie. We have all the data here on our calls. We're about to go to me, but just wrapping up on your overall P&L was 236%. You got 236% P&L points for the year. So that's excellent. That would beat most of Wall Street.
Let me just say, the data you're just sort of presenting doesn't include size of position taken. And so also, it's basically going off of these stocks are fluid, these equities underlyings are fluid. And so where we enter a position, let me give you an example. We talked about this at one of our previous episodes. Applied Digital, I entered in the late eights and I exited around the 10.5s, 11s. And so currently, I think it's trading at a 7. I may be a buyer again, but there's some active management. It's not passive management. And so basically, I took a very large position in Broadcom. I felt a little more um, compelled. I basically felt, gosh darn, what's the word for it, James? Am I searching for? But basically, I really liked the buy point in Broadcom when I entered. I actually entered earlier than or after a drop at 180 in a very large position. So it was one of my basically biggest profits of the year. Tesla, another one, just because, yeah, I mean, when you're buying in the 150 range.
Yeah. With this, we're not tracking. Yeah, we're not tracking your overall earnings for the year. And honestly, we don't care because, I'm going to be completely honest with you, Kai. Billionaires and people who have many millions of dollars, they don't even buy stocks. They don't even buy stocks. They buy bonds. They trade bonds. So they will make way more money than us, even though they don't own a single stock, just because they have a higher amount that they're investing in their bonds. So it's not, so this P&L points thing is about your choices. It's not about the total amount that you made in the year. It's not about if you're in and out. It's about the choices that we made and then expressed to each other, our opinions. Once again, this is all just our opinions, but our opinions on stocks, were we right or wrong with our opinions? That's what this is about. It's really reputational P&L. It's not the total amount of money that you made or lost, because once again, somebody with $500 million who's just buying a treasury is going to make way more than us, even though we're going into some of these risky stocks. So this is really reputational P&L. It has nothing to do with how much money you really made or didn't. So we don't need to even say that in the future. This is just reputational P&L. And I wish all people on CNBC, I wish all podcasters who are talking finance, I wish all of them would do what we're doing with this. But yeah, so your overall was 236%. You were ahead of me earlier in the year, but that was before I added some of the small caps that we covered. And you were a little more risk averse on small caps like SoundHound. So that kind of cost you. Let's switch over to mine here. So once again, your overall for the year, your P&L, reputational P&L, 236%. My reputational P&L, 383%. Let's go over my 5 best and worst picks of 2024. My worst pick was, it looks like SMCI. SMCI was my worst pick. I was bullish on that, so I lost 71% reputational points on that. My next 2 worst picks were about the same. So I was bearish on ANET when you were bullish on it, and that lost me 58% P&L points. I was bearish on Astera Labs, and it went up, so I lost 58% P&L points, reputational P&L points on that. And then Pega, you were actually bullish on that one. I lost 40% on that one. And Serve, this one, shocker. Serve Robotics, by the way, all of this data is year-end data. Serve Robotics, over the last couple trading days, has gone way up past 13. It's at about 19, I want to say now. Like another 30% it's gone up just over the past couple of days. So this doesn't even capture the full move that we've had in Serve Robotics. But you were bullish on Serve Robotics. You brought that one to our attention. I was bearish on it. I kind of dismissed it, and I lost 38%. And real quick, one other thing I just want to mention on Serve. We'll let you chime in, but one other thing I want to say on Serve, I actually flipped and bought that stock like a month ago because I was in Miami and I saw they've like tripled the amount of those robots walking around Miami. So I've actually flipped on that when I bought it. But go ahead, what were you gonna say?
Well, I say you get a pass because you actually had experience with these robots. I had no experience with these robots. And then you were able to see the progression and sort of the story be told regarding in different cities where these robots actually exist. And so then you took a position. So it's interesting. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with Serve? I think it's an interesting company.
Well, real quick before I go into my big winners, just one last thing on Serve. I was thinking to myself, well, let's say we wind up with humanoid robots walking on the sidewalk someday. Who's going to have all the sidewalk data? Serve Robotics. Serve Robotics has these little delivery robots all over the sidewalks in Miami. Who's going to have the data for how to navigate sidewalks if a humanoid robot needs that data in the future? Serve Robotics is going to have all that data. That data is priceless. So yeah, I would say Serve Robotics, just for the data alone, is worth more than $1 billion. And right now it's trading at under $1 billion. Anyways, moving on to my biggest winners of 2024. It looks like my biggest winner, I had a couple in the 200s. SoundHound was 241% P&L points. And then Palantir was 224% P&L points.
Oh, you were bullish on Palantir. I was like, we both were bullish on Palantir. Yeah.
But bullish on Palantir. And then My next winner, Tesla at 111%. We did a really good episode on Tesla, and then Marvell, 60% winner on that, and Axon was one of my big winners. Axon at some point was up even more than this, but it's pulled back a little bit, but up about 51% on Axon. And I want to jump into our acronyms next. Our acronyms is when we had to focus in. We chose a smaller amount of companies for 2024. This list here is all the companies that we covered in our podcast and kind of our reputation based on whether we are bullish or bearish. Now, what I'm going to do, Kai, just to finish out this segment, I think we're going to close this out for 2024. We're not going to continue to track. And then everything in 2025 will be a new take, and we'll start tracking our takes in 2025, which unfortunately gives us the opportunity to be big losers for 2025 if the market goes down, because we know that a rising or setting tide either rises or sinks all boats. All boats go up or down based on where the market goes. Alrighty, so let's jump into our NTXGB and Scuba. So Kai, you had NTXGB was your acronym for 2024. For 2025, we're not allowing you to do one that doesn't sound like a word, but yours kind of sounds like an NVIDIA GPU for 2024. So NTXGB was your pick. And I'm just going to give a spoiler alert here. You definitely beat me on the acronym. So choosing a smaller amount of companies, you beat me pretty bad for 2024. Let's go over your specific picks, which, by the way, five out of five here. Go ahead.
Well, thank you. But I mean, the reality is so I basically went with a dividend payer. And my one big winner was Bitcoin, which you didn't have a crypto, but you are an investor in crypto. So I will give you a pass there. But I mean, that's the only reason why I beat you, James, is because of the Bitcoin. I mean, my gosh,
what do you? Actually, you're
well,
wrong.
I guess I'd have to look.
Crypto.
But Bitcoin was, gee, what a year for crypto.
All right, let's go over your NTXGB here before we make any conclusions, because I can see that you repeatedly forgot my Scuba. I won't take it personally, but NVIDIA was your first choice in NTXGB, up 151% from January 10th of 2024. Tesla, 72% from January 10th. XOM, is that ExxonMobil?
That's Exxon. I went with an oil and gas dividend player. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's your worst pick there, 9%. Still up 9%. I mean, 9% is actually a pretty good return. Like if you look at average returns for stocks over the last 80 years, like 9% is actually a pretty good annual return. But XOM up 9% from the beginning of the year. Google up 34%. Bitcoin up 98%. So NVIDIA was your biggest winner, with Bitcoin as your second biggest winner. Overall, 300. If you add all those up, that's 366%. So that is your NTXGB. Now we'll get to your 2025 in just a bit here, but we know you're going to have an actual word for 2025, right? Can you promise that?
Maybe.
Okay. So getting that Scuba. So mine was Scuba, an actual word, but unfortunately not as good of a performer. So in choosing an actual word, I kind of handicapped myself and did not have as good of an outcome as Mr. NTXGB. So I had Snowflake, Kava, Uranium ETF, Bitcoin, and Amgen. It looks like my losers, I had three that went negative. Not even half of my picks went positive, but my biggest loser was Snowflake, which has made a bit of an end-of-year comeback, but down 17%. And then Kava.
Your Amazon has to be wrong. I mean,
Amazon. You mean Amgen?
Oh, Amgen. Okay,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Amgen. Nope, did not pick Amazon, picked Amgen, which has been a loser. Was up at some point during the year, but once again reversed at the end of the year. Okay, so Kava up 112%. Obviously, one of my best picks ever was Kava. And then Uranium. Surprisingly, Uranium, another one that was up in the middle of the year and then pulled way back. So that's down 14% at the end of year. Bitcoin up 98% at the end of year. Amgen down 14%. And so I was trying to hedge and all this, trying to be a little more fancy hedge and stuff like that. So unfortunately, I kind of hurt myself by doing all that hedging. You hurt yourself a little bit with the Exxon hedge, but not as much as I hurt myself with all of my hedges. So Kai, just, welcome to give any comments on those 2024 acronyms, but I also just kind of like to get you to evaluate 2024 as a whole. So just give us your take, AI sector as a whole. What do you think? What do you think about our picks? What do you think about our misses for 2024? What's your take on 2024 as a whole, wrapping up?
Well, I think that we've been, like any great bull market, we've been brought about by the build out phase of AI. And basically we've had a really good 2 years in the stock market. I think it was almost like a record these last 2 years. And so it's hard. The odds are not in our favor for 2025. However, I don't see the tides necessarily changing because all
Well, no
signs.
2025 yet. Don't go into 2025. Just tell me, what are the lessons you learned in investing in 2024? What did you learn about how to invest, how to be an investor, how to trade? What did you learn in 2024?
Deployment of money. I mean, I think that there are times when I have missed out on significant returns, not just in our picks. And so that you have this. I think it's a great exercise, bullish or bearish. But the reality is we like a lot of the companies we're talking about. We choose bearish in one of those two because we're not basically saying I'm going to buy now. It doesn't mean necessarily we don't think Axon's a great company. It doesn't necessarily we think Marvell is a good choice. It's just, oh, do we buy it now or not? And sometimes, for example, in Texas Instruments, I thought it already hit its price target around 205, 210, right? So I did not deploy any money there. There are other times where I'm like, Tesla is at $150 a share, or Amazon has dropped, or I really like the buy point of Broadcom here, or you and I both. I mean, you deployed more than I did in NVIDIA at a certain particular time. And I think those are my biggest missed opportunities. It's not that I pick a stock wrong or an underlying wrong and it went down. I can be patient there. It's did I deploy enough capital when I needed to? And something that I feel very strong about. And when you feel strong about something like both you and I did, I mean, one of my biggest miss, honestly, is not deploying enough to a risk on asset like Bitcoin when we were in a good economy or crypto just in general. And then potentially, if Trump being elected, who's very crypto friendly, we both could have seen that coming to deploy a little money there. So Bitcoin at 100,000. You mentioned that happening. I don't know if I very much remember we making a bet and you saying Bitcoin would hit 100,000 by the summer. You were correct, James. Bitcoin was going to hit 100,000. It was just going to take a little longer than the summer. So yeah, I think that's the biggest lesson I learned is basically to trust my instincts, trust my technical analysis, trust my financial analysis, be patient, and deploy more capital in times where I feel very strong about a particular pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. I mean, look, so when you have this kind of a ferocious bull market, time in the market is more valuable than timing the market. Okay. So, time, I'll say that one more time, time in the market, the amount of time you're actually owning something in the market is going to help you more than trying to time the market. It's almost like you could have just bought the riskiest stuff and done really well in 2024. Now, that's not going to continue forever, like you said. But we did well because we focused on AI. I'm just going to put it out there. In February, I contacted you and I said, hey, I'm going all in. I'm putting all my money in AI stocks. And that was one of the best decisions of my life. I think starting the podcast has been really fun too, because anyone who joined us in that pursuit did really well too. They rode the wave along with us. So timing the market is not going to do as well for you as time in the market. One of my big lessons learned. And then just never fight a bull market. And the way that we kind of fought, especially the way that I kind of fought, was not being as risk on as maybe it would have benefited me to be. And that includes things like crypto. That includes other things like, let's say, Astera Labs, or I thought ANET wasn't the best choice for networking. Well, maybe it's not the best choice for networking, but it still did fantastic. So time in the market and time in risk stocks during a bull market is more valuable than timing the market. That was my big lesson from 2024. But let's jump into real quick before. Yeah, go ahead.
Myself a little critique in regards to I really thought a bear market was coming, maybe a short bear market over a period of 2-3 months, but we also had a very tumultuous time, and that was basically October 7th, a year ago. October, we had a lot of wars being started. There was some questions about the economy, and so yeah, I think it depends on your risk level. However, when you do feel very strongly about something and you have some risk tolerance there, potentially the ability to be patient in regards to choosing an underlying and or deploying some money, and you can have some patience there, that may be great. But man, when you do hit a bear market, it can really hurt you. You know, losing 20% can really hurt you. So maybe it also depends on how much you're up. You know, if you bought Bitcoin in the 30,000 and you're at 95,000, 100,000, maybe you can sit out a little drop to 60, 70, right? But if you are all of a sudden going all in on Bitcoin at 100,000, well, and everything drops to 67, you're feeling that. So yeah, a lot of lessons learned, a lot. One of the beautiful things about doing this podcast is actually it forces you to sit down and go over the financials and the analysis of a company to determine and make an accurate estimate. And it also allows, I don't know about you, James, but myself, to come up, it forces me to come up with a plan. So it forces me to look at something and say, hey, I really like the entry of Amazon at 165. My price target is 230, 240. I'm going to keep to my plan. And so, and then when you have that plan, deploying the plan, basically emulating the plan. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, let's jump into 2025 and we're going to go over our acronyms for 2025. We've chosen specific acronyms just like we did for 2024, predicting how we think 2025 will go. I'm sure the audience is interested to hear yours since you did so well with your 2024 acronym. Maybe not as interested in mine, but I would like to first just get your general predictions for 2025, or I can give mine first. I'll go ahead and give my general predictions for 2025 first and where I think we're headed here. And then we'll get your general predictions for 2025 before we go into our acronyms, and then we'll finish up the episode. So, for 2025...
Before you start, James, I'm going to be very critical of your decisions here. Even if I agree with some of them, I'm just going to play devil's advocate. So go ahead.
Okay. The reason I was smiling is because I just saw AI's acronym. I had ONA, Chat GPT 01. I had her do an acronym for 2025, and we're going to get that too. And I was just smiling because I just saw hers for the first time. But let's okay. So 2025. Look, all bets are off because of Trump. That's what I was going to say for 2025. So look, I would have thought 2025 has got to be the pullback, maybe even a recession. With this Trump win, I don't think anyone has a clue. So we are waiting for the first 2 weeks of Trump's presidency to know where this year is going to go. Everyone is waiting for that. We want to see if he's going to do anything big, like, for example, tariffs. Are we going to do big tariffs? Are we going to do 10% across the board tariffs on everything? Are we going to do 20 to 40% tariffs on China? Like, are we going to do stuff like that? That's going to tell us a lot. So this year hinges on a few things: Trump presidency and where they go with their economic stuff. It hinges on inflation, which I actually think is going to be not as bad as expected, notwithstanding anything that Trump does. I don't think inflation is going to be as bad as people are fearing right now. And then also, labor market, which I think is going to hold up pretty okay. So I guess for me, considering that I'm not as worried about inflation and jobs, I'm a little more worried about, whether or not Trump will do anything that's going to have economic ramifications. By the way, even immigration policies could hurt the labor market. They could at least bring us back to reality on the labor market, and that could look like a worsening economy, even when we're just going back to a real economy, rather than one that's artificially inflated by tons and tons of immigration, legalized and unauthorized. So I guess what I would say is, as you can hear from my answer, Kai, I'm really tuned into economic things because I think that's what decides whether or not all boats are riding the tide up or down here in 2025. I'm really, really tuned into economics for 2025. But overall, I'm bullish because it's a Trump presidency. We saw what happened in the previous Trump presidency. This guy cares about business. This guy cares about allowing mergers and acquisitions, basic things. He cares about crypto. He wants to allow crypto. That had no legitimate reason for being hunted down and assassinated by the federal government. Maybe controlled by the federal government is a little more fair, but assassinated, no. So I am eager for this new environment, and I'm bullish overall. What about you?
So when you trade at a PE level, the NASDAQ is trading at a PE of like 35 to 37. What goes up must come down. So I actually am very bullish initially over these next 6 months, but the odds are not in our favor over these next 4 years. Now, I'll comment just on 2025, but we are going to have a pullback. You cannot continue with 20 to 30% returns, and we are becoming a little overvalued. Now, here's the story that I think is being told is that there is still a lot of money being spent on the build out and arms race that is AI. So I think we're going to be dragged along there. I think where Trump, this is my political opinion, I'll go ahead and say it, was not potentially the best equipped at dealing with a medical healthcare crisis. I think a financial crisis and or a pullback in regards to the economy, potentially a recession, he will be very good at dealing with. So I'm bullish on his presidential term. I'm bullish on the near term over the next 3 to 6 months, but I do think there's some challenges economically that are basically going to happen sometime over the next 4 years. Essentially, I think in the late 1990s, the NASDAQ was trading at a P of 37, and we had a really basically a bear market then. So things are getting a little hot to me. We had an initial pullback, but I am bullish over this next month. Now, I am one data point that you have mentioned before that I am watching very carefully right now. Yes, is economic data, but I'm watching these treasury yields, which is this is a little bit perplexing to me, some learning for me. I mean, as the Fed is lowering interest rates, these treasury yields have started to climb. So I'm watching those closely. I think that's a headwind currently. I do think earnings are going to be good this next quarter. But yes, I am bullish on 2025, James, as well, to answer your question. But I do think we can't have basically a 20% market over the next 4 years. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's funny though. So the one thing that I'm not sure I totally got. So you were saying what goes up must come down.
We can't trade at a PE level of the NASDAQ at 37.40 without some sort of pullback or correction, a bear market. Essentially, what I'm saying is we're not going to get 20% returns in the stock market over the next 4 years each year.
My opinion is if we get 5% returns or 10% returns, I think that's okay, because that's kind of like the long-term average. So I guess what I would say is I don't see that as a pullback. If we get 5 or 10% returns in 2025, I don't see that as what went up coming down. I just see that as average returns. So I'm hoping that we actually do get average returns. I don't want a negative year. I don't want a recession. And usually we only get those negative years in recessive type environments. So if we have a 5 or 10% year, I'm okay with that. Especially all things considered, how the last year or two went. But let's jump into our 2025 acronyms. I think we'll go with yours first, and then we'll do mine, and then we'll do ChatGPT o1. We finally have the full o1 model out. So let's start with yours. What is your acronym for 2025? Give us the acronym first, and then tell us each letter. And we don't have to take forever on these. You can just tell us quickly, after you name each stock, just quickly, what is it and why'd you pick it?
Yeah, so a lot of these are things that we've covered. I thought about going simple like candle, which you and I had briefly talked about, but I'm going to go with manacled. It basically means shackles. So I'm going to shackle you. I'm going to go with manacled. And the reason why I'm going to go with manacled is you went from like 4 or 5 letters to allowing 12 in our rules. Then the other one is I wanted one particular stock that I wanted to fit a letter in, and I'll tell you what that is. So the first stock that I actually wanted to fit in there was MU. And so I am bullish on MU. I think currently MU is undervalued. It's currently trading in the low 80s. I actually thought the last earnings call was really good. So my first pick is MU for manacled. My next pick is ASML, which I also think is undervalued. And I do think we're going to have over the next year or two a cycle that is build out in chips. And so currently we've covered ASML before. It's a lithography machine. It owns the market in this particular market. And I do not think the tariffs are going to be, I think that's more rumor than it actually will happen. So I actually think ASML is my A pick. My N pick is NVIDIA. So NVIDIA is the king. I think watching the market this last month has really, I've been following NVIDIA very closely because even during this pullback, NVIDIA has held strong. So right now, NVIDIA is breaking out past its 50-day, and it really held really well at the 50-day, both in a weekly average as well as the daily average. So my price target at NVIDIA is somewhere around 160 to 180. Right now, NVIDIA is trading at around 140, a little above that. So I'm very bullish on NVIDIA still. I'm going to throw one in there as a little bit of a hedge. It's Domino's. So I'm going to put Domino's Pizza in there. I like pizza, but Domino's had a pullback. And I think with inflation, we haven't had deflation. And so Domino's as a company, I think, will benefit still in 2025 from basically wallet being a little tight. And I think the consumers are going to still eat from Domino's. The last two, all right, are both hedges, but one of them I really feel compelled about, which is going to be my most interesting pick, in my opinion, is Lilly. So I am bullish on Eli Lilly. I think they're going to win the GLP inhibitor war. They also have an Alzheimer's drug. And if you have not looked, the sector of healthcare is at its 52-week low. I think also the sector has been basically hurt by the UNH CEO killing. So there's been some negative news there. So Eli Lilly is one of my picks. Then I have on my last sorry, I got a little bit manacled. So MANACLED, Domino's, I kind of went with XLE. I'm going to go with energy. Energy stocks really benefited from Trump's last term. So I'm going to go with XLE, the energy sector, just in general. So any questions there on my pick? The one that I forgot to put in there was the C, and that's CEG. So I thought about putting that as Chevron, but I'm going to go with CEG as as one of my picks. So to give those again, it's MU, ASML, NVIDIA. I'm going to throw Broadcom in there. So AVGO, manacled, and then CEG, Lilly, XLE, and Domino's. So
Okay. Yeah, the only one that you surprised me with was Domino's, but I like it. I like it a lot. I'm going to give mine, and then we're going to get ChatGPTs. Now, you're not going to like mine. I'm going to tell you right off the bat, you're not going to like mine. First of all, you're not going to like it because you're going to find out very quickly that the reason I said we're capped at 12 picks or 12 letters for our acronym is because mine is 12 picks. My acronym happens to be 12. And I'm going to just start reading them off. I'm going to go very, very quickly. Since it's 12, I'm going to go very quickly on each one. I might not even tell why for some of them, but I want you, Kai, to try and figure out what it spells out. So I'm not going to tell you initially what it spells out. I'm just going to start going through them. Let's see if you can figure out what it spells out here.
can I say something really quick too? So our listeners out there, critique us. Go ahead and say which ones you like of our picks, and then give ourselves a thumb down. I mean, for example, if you do not like my Domino's pick, tell us. I mean, we want to hear what you guys have to think about this. So go ahead. Let me hear your 12 letters. And there's some benefit to being able to make the rules, James.
Yeah, I'm usually making the rules. So just like last year, I have some hedges worked in, and my first letter in the acronym is actually one of my hedges. So JAAA is a private credit ETF. In 2024, I really got interested in bond ETFs. So starting out, I've got JAAA. It's a private credit ETF with a 6.3% yield, only a 0.2% expense ratio, and had a 0.8% price gain in 2024, meaning overall it had about a 6% return for 2024. So JAAA is my first one. AMZY is a covered call strategy ETF with a pretty impressive monthly payout, or you could call it a monthly dividend. So AMZY is a covered call writing strategy ETF on Amazon stock. That's one that people should look at. So J and A are my first two. Marvell is my third. We've already covered Marvell. EDV is my fourth. Now, EDV is a 20 to 30 year treasury bond ETF. So obviously it's making around 4.3% right now, annual yield. It's really there as a hedge. So if things went south, if the economy went south, if rates went down, it would make 15% in price appreciation in addition to its 4% annual yield. So that could net 20% upside if the market pulled back. My fifth one is Solana. Solana is one of the riskier cryptocurrencies, not the riskiest, but let's say it's maybe one of the largest cryptos. So after Ethereum and Bitcoin, Solana is up there. Now, my next one is SoundHound. We've covered SoundHound AI previously.
I also think you're not spelling out a word.
I am. You're not keeping track. Are you not keeping track?
Well, firstly, I have James actually.
Okay, good. So you got the first. You got the first part, James.
Okay.
Up to Solana was James, and then the second part starts with an S because I just said SoundHound. So James is the first part. All right. So SoundHound is my. But there's a dash between James and the second part, so it's a conjunction technically. But okay, James dash and then SoundHound. onsemi. I just like what onsemi is doing. I like their position in the market for optical sensors. So like robotics need to use their vision chips, for example. So SoundHound, onsemi, Axon. We've covered Axon. Go back, watch our video on that. It's up. It's way up since we covered it. Rivian. I just think that the end of 2025 is going to be their time period because they're introducing new cars in 2026. I just think people buy up Rivian right before they drop their new cars in 2026, because their new SUVs, their smaller, cheaper SUVs, might be the next Model Y. And we know the Model Y is like the most popular car in America right now. So Rivian, I think, is a great end of 2025 play. Okay, so Soundhound, onsemi, Axon, Rivian. Then I have another hedge in here. I have IEF, which is a 7 to 10 year Treasury bond ETF. And then my last two are NVIDIA, which you just have to have NVIDIA. Like, I mean, it's not going anywhere. All of the narratives against NVIDIA are wrong. Like, we haven't done an episode on NVIDIA, but I could sit here and I could list every single counter narrative to NVIDIA, and I could tell you why it's wrong. Literally everything is wrong against NVIDIA. And let me just mention one counter narrative before I finish up with my last pick. The narrative that it's not good for inference. NVIDIA chips are only for training. You need Broadcom or Marvell to make custom chips for inference. That is a lie. I do AI inference for my real job, my day job. I do AI inference for it. And guess what? It's just old NVIDIA chips that are used for inference. It's not Broadcom. It's not, I mean, if you're on the public market buying GPU hours, you're probably doing it on an old NVIDIA chip, period. Okay? Old NVIDIA chips are still the best for inference. All right, so lastly, my last pick is GE Vernova. The ticker symbol is GEV. So GE Vernova is very well situated in like everything that's going to matter for AI power, whether it be natural gas or electricity, nuclear. They're well positioned for all of it. So yeah, did you figure out what the mnemonic is?
I just got the James pretty quickly. I was thinking about some of your picks. I like Axon. I like NVIDIA. I really like GE Vernova and GE. Both of those companies. Basically, GE Vernova is an offshoot of GE, but I'm very bullish on GE. I actually have a position in GE. So, what was your second dash word? What was your?
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a contest, and I want to do contests periodically in 2025. So it just so happens contests are way more legal than sweepstakes. Sweepstakes is like a random winner. A contest is where you pick somebody who got an answer right. It's actually way more legal and easy to do. So we're going to do $50 of crypto. It'll be any crypto given out to any crypto available on Robinhood, which is like you can go look up all the cryptos that are available on Robinhood. But we're going to do a contest, and it's going to be $50 of free crypto to anybody. The first person in our comments who comments what my full mnemonic is, my full acronym rather is. Kai, don't say it if you figured it out, because now we're doing a contest. So the eligibility, anybody 18 year older, void where prohibited. That includes Arizona, Colorado, Maryland, Nebraska, and North Dakota. The first person to comment on this video or podcast. It can be the podcast also. You can leave a 5-star review of the podcast and comment, review the podcast, or on the YouTube video for this episode. The first person to comment and say my full acronym, and to email us so we have your email address so that we can communicate with you and give you the prize. So first person to comment with my mnemonic. You also must be a follower of our channel, and you must like the video. We can track all those things, or a follower, a subscriber to the podcast.
James makes the rules. Is it James Dash makes the rules on as the part of the mnemonic?
You have not won the contest, but yeah. So I think that's all the conditions. I just had to say the legal conditions. We're not sponsored. Make sure you pay taxes on the $50 of crypto that you win, and that's pretty much it. So first person will be the winner. But we're pretty much ready to wrap up the episode. I just wanted to go over one last thing, which is O1 ChatGPT's 2025 mnemonic. But any comments before I get to that, Kai?
No, I mean, you've got a lot of hedges in there, which you just said that I'm very bullish on 2025 with a lot of hedge. So I would make the comment on that there's a little bit of, I don't know what to think about that with as many hedges you have in your James mnemonic. James makes the rules mnemonic, but yeah, we'll see if I can manacle you with shackle. You do shackle instead of candle. I really wanted MU in there. But yeah, I want to give you, that's my biggest critique on you, is you said you're bullish, but you have a lot of hedge. So you give me your main critique on me with my manacled.
Boof. I like yours a lot. I guess I don't have a main critique, especially since you won 2024 with your acronym. I guess I would have to think more deeply about why you won 2024 and why I lost 2024. I think probably because of my hedges is probably why I lost, but I added more stocks so I could get a better average for 2025. I'm hoping with the additional stocks that I'll just get a better overall average for 2025 in my acronym.
Do you think 2025 is the year of the Mag 7? I mean, obviously the leader this last year has been the Mag 7. I mean, Amazon, Google, NVIDIA, Tesla, Microsoft, Apple even had a really good year. Both of us, I think the only Mag 7 stock we put in there was NVIDIA. So you don't have any Mag 7. I did not. I actually am bullish on Amazon. I still think their AWS is a huge moneymaker. So
we got to wrap up because we're at 40 minutes and also my laptop is 10%. But let me answer your question real quick and then we'll hear ChatGPT's acronym for 2025. So to answer your question, is 2025 the year of the Mag 7? I would say that in the dinosaur era, a T-Rex had a longer life expectancy than a snail. So in general, something that's huge is going to live longer and do better than something that's small. But small cap AI has drastically outperformed over the past couple months. I mean, some of these stocks like SoundHound, for example, Serve Robotics, just drastic outperformance over the last couple months. So owning those, but once again, time in the market beats timing the market. Let's hear ChatGPT O1's acronym for 2025. I'm going to go ahead and just put my AirPod down so I can play it out loud so that you can hear it too, Kai.
all right.
Hey everyone, welcome to my 2025 preview. I'm excited to share my top picks using the acronym TRANSFORM. T is for Taiwan Semiconductor, TSM, because it's a crucial chip maker powering the global AI revolution. R is for Realty Income, O, offering reliable monthly dividends to stabilize returns. A stands for Apple, AAPL, which keeps innovating across hardware, software, and services. N is NVIDIA, NVDA, an undisputed giant in AI and data center technology. S goes to Snowflake, Snow, driving the future of cloud-based data analytics. F represents Fortinet, FTNT, as cybersecurity is critical in our digital landscape. O is for Oracle, ORCL, expanding its enterprise cloud and database solutions. R is Raytheon, RTX, a defense tech leader offering stable contracts and dividends. M finally is Microsoft, MSFT, a cornerstone in cloud computing and AI innovation. That's Transform, my go-to portfolio for a strong 2025.
All right, so we can see that ChatGPT is pretty good at making acronyms transform significantly better than both of ours probably. But, ChatGPT is smarter than us at this point. O1 is pretty much the smartest non-living thing in the world. So, all right, excited for 2025. Excellent episode. Any closing remarks, Kai?
Yeah, I'm going to manacle ChatGPT there. I'm sorry. I think mine is going to beat that one. I feel pretty confident. I do like I do like Microsoft. I do like NVIDIA. I like Taiwan Semi. It's hard to build an acronym with a T initially. Taiwan Semi would have been in one of my picks, but yeah, thanks, James. Also, we were going to talk about quantum computing. Please look at our next episodes. I cannot explain quantum computing, but Rigetti. I've been watching Rigetti pretty closely. So yeah.
Yeah, actually quantum computing was first on my list of things to discuss today. I happen to forget that. So let me just give one really quick comment on that before we close out. And I will say that of the three big quantum computing companies, one which is called like quantum computing and the other two which are Rigetti and IonQ. IonQ is the only one that's actually growing revenue. The other two are not growing revenue. I think that this is not the same as the AI boom, AI revolution. This is a little bit more fake. And I am not optimistic on quantum stocks for 2025, 2026, 2027. Not optimistic. But if you had to choose one, IonQ would be mine, not Rigetti. So we'll close out there. And thank you so much for watching our show. We will be tracking our returns over 2025, and it will be fun and exciting. And also, we have started tracking predictions from ChatGPT O1 for each stock that we cover. So we will also be tracking ChatGPT's returns for 2025. Thanks for tuning into our show. Please give us a like or comment. We'll be back in the next episode to cover AI stocks that are going to be amazing and make you happy in 2025. You can find all our holdings and trades at investingintel.ai. Thanks so much, Kai.
The first revolution is when you change your mind about how you look at things and see that there might be another way to look at it that you have not been shown. You will not be able to stay home. You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and pop about. The revolution will not be televised, and be no rerun, brothers and sisters. The revolution will be live.